There's a few things about it. Firstly, at the most practical level, all human beings improvise, and we all improvise naturally. We improvise invisibly. We improvise effortlessly. And if we don't know that, it's only because we can't see the forest for the trees. So just to be clear about what I'm saying, you and I couldn't function in the world unless we had mastery over improvisation. And by that, what I mean is this very conversation I'm having right now is improvisation. I've got a general idea of a point that I want to make. And if we could slow the clock right down, the physiological clock as well as the neurological clock, and we were to dial it right down to a micro event, what happens is this: when you and I are talking and communicating every moment of every day, I have an idea that I want to communicate, or you've said something to me that I want to respond to. I know what it is that I want to communicate generally. So what happens is I dive down into my reservoir of vocabulary, and I not only pull out the words that I need, but I've also done enough of it to know how to organize those words in a particular order so that it communicates exactly what it is that I want to communicate to you in a clear and a concise manner. And then you hear that and you understand what it is that I say. And now what happens is that you formulate a response, you dive into your vocabulary from however big your vocabulary is that you've built and acquired over a lifetime. And now what happens in the moment is you pull out all the words that you want to use to respond, and you communicate back to me. It's an extraordinarily sophisticated act. All speech is improvisation unless you're reading from a script. I want you to try to imagine what it would be like for a moment to communicate in the world if you could only read from a script, or if you could only say the words that someone else was telling you to say. It would be near impossible, if not impossible. How on earth would we communicate moment by moment? Even as we are talking to people and we're just thinking about our day, what we've got to do. In that moment, even the ability to be able to think thoughts requires mastery over the most extraordinary act of improvisation. Human beings, by design, are improvising machines. Similarly, when it comes to playing music, I'm of the view that if we don't have access to any form of improvisation, if we don't have experience with improvisation, what we're left with is reciting the words of others, the musical equivalent of that. We're learning a song. In this instance, it's simply music. Say, for the purpose of this conversation, you're learning a song that I composed. So really what you're doing, if we look at, in music, a melody, which really I would just think of as a sentence, and when we're playing from one note to the next, it's really just one word after the next, if we could draw that similarity. When you play Dreams Come True, dum, 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 and then Nicole plays that, and then Jenny plays that, for example, what's happening is you're just reciting my words, which is great. And, and we can develop a real, a high degree of proficiency with that, to a point in time where we're now able to recite the words of Beethoven and Chopin, et cetera, and the great masters, but they're still not our words. We're reciting the words of others. And yet in life, that would be absolutely unacceptable if we could only communicate in reciting the words of others. So first and foremost, improvisation is very important because it allows self-expression. It allows self-communication. Now, we have a judgment over our ability to do that. We've been trained orally to hear music and it sounds fabulous. And then when we try to do it, we judge what it is that we're doing. And it's unfortunate because there was a time when we were learning how to improvise that we were very masterful at accepting ourselves, like when we were babies. We were learning to build that vocabulary. And when a baby doesn't know how to say banana and it just says nana, it doesn't follow that with a judgment about itself, saying, gosh, Nana just doesn't sound the same way as mum says it. I'm just not good at this. What's the point? I'm giving up. It's just the room and the freedom to just babble, knowing that the babble, the breadth of babbling grows. And as the breadth of babbling grows, it starts to refine the babble into approximations of words. And after a while, those approximations of words start to get clear, but maybe the order of the words isn't clear. And after a while, the child learns how to not only articulate the words, but organize them in a way that achieves the most desired result. And that's why the child doesn't say, glass want water of. The child knows to say, want a glass of water. It learns the order of organization of the words. That's improvisation. And so to me, I want our students to have that experience and be equipped with that experience, because it's really the dynamic and it's the most natural state of human self-expression. The other thing about it is this, that our approach to being able to read music so that we can recite the words of others, which are masterworks in and of themselves. But in order to do that, we have to develop a new skill, and that's the ability to read. When we are reading from the page, we are receiving our instructions from an external source. We teach that process in a particular way, and it requires that we develop a generative muscle. Unlike learning dreams come true, where every step of every note and every sentence was provided to you, improvisation requires you exercise a generative muscle. And it's one of several things, parts of this curriculum, that require you to be generative. When you do that, and when you learn who you need to become to develop a patience and tolerance and acceptance and forgiveness and compassion and gentleness with yourself, and allow yourself to explore and mumble and fumble and bumble your way through it until you start to develop a proficiency at that, that actually exercises a muscle that becomes extraordinarily important as you want to move into the development of higher level reading skills and the like.